Hi, everybody. I'm excited to bring you this week's interview with Mary Young. She is a local author who has published a book and has her second one coming out very, very soon, possibly tomorrow. So we're going to get to know her more. She's from the District 3 Vernon Hill area. And I'm really proud and pleased to introduce her to those of you who have not met her yet. Some of you may have because she's kind of known around the county for various things. So here we go. Welcome, Mary. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. I appreciate it.
I'm so pleased you're here and you're giving us the time to get to know people in Halifax County.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on.
Awesome. Well, let's start by just telling us about yourself, your background, where you're from, etc.
Okay. Well, I am originally from Maine, born and bred there, 56 years. When I was 56, my husband was getting ready to turn 60. We had our property down here as kind of a vacation spot. And he said, you know what? I want to make the move permanent.
Let me back up just a little bit. How did you find property here? How was that?
Okay. Well, my parents lived just north of Orlando. His parents lived on the west coast of Florida, but not that far from like Silver Springs or things. So his parents and my parents were about 40 miles apart. Mm-hmm. So we used to travel down to see them.
Right.
Okay, for Christmas, or we never went during the summer. But we'd go in the fall or Christmas time, early spring. And on our way through, we took the trucker's route, right? So we would go through like natural springs or close to natural springs and things on 81, Natural Bridge, I'm sorry.
Right.
And stuff, and liked the area. So we would travel back and forth, and we said, well, you know what? If we ever retire, I think Virginia is the state that we still will get seasons. Okay, still get a little bit of snow, not as much as Maine. Yeah. And, but we like the seasons.
Yeah.
Okay. Other states were just a little too far south.
Right.
For me. Humidity is a problem for me. But Virginia seemed to be the place. So we started looking around, and we looked in Grundy, Virginia. We'd go on the internet and we would look at properties that they had. And of course, on the internet, they look great, right?
Of course.
So then you travel, okay, from Maine, from our place in Maine to here is 900 miles. And then, of course, Grundy is even further, so you would travel all those hours, get there, and look at the place and go, oh, really? So we would travel around on our own and look through. We looked through Kentucky. We looked through Ohio a little bit and said, no, Virginia, we were looking for what we call flatland, okay? My husband's originally from Massachusetts. I'm from Maine. They pretty much call us flatlanders, even though we have mountains and things like that.
Right.
But, West Virginia, when we go through there, all the cows were kind of standing like this on the mountainsides and things. It was like, okay, no, this is not what we call flatland, right? We're like little gentle rolling hills, the farmland and things. And we had come down to see a place in Scottsburg, and we had told the person we were coming. We had an appointment. By the time we got here, they said, oh, it just sold yesterday. And I was like, a phone call would have been nice, but okay. Yeah. So we looked around the area, and we stayed for a week and found our place in Vernon Hill, found the land, and went from there. And that was 25 years ago. But we didn't move here permanently until 10 years ago.
So in the interim, before the 10 years ago, what did you just visit annually?
We came down. My husband worked for himself. He had his own business and everything, so he could take whatever time he wanted. And I worked for companies where I could work on the road if I so chose, right? So long as I had a computer in my hands, I could work. So, and I got I had been there for so many years, I got, I think they had 17 holidays, okay, a lot of holidays, things most people don't get off. And I had 6 weeks of vacation time. So we would come down like every 3 months, we'd take a 2-week vacation.
Right.
And we'd come down
Nice.
for 2 weeks. So we got to see all the seasons. We planned it that way. We got to meet people. And people were very nice from the minute we bought our property, you know, and just being very friendly.
Now, I'm going to ask you, because I've been to Vernon Hill multiple times, and it's a little lonely out there. How did you meet people?
Well, the first people that we met were actually the members of the hunt club.
There's a hunt club in Vernon Hills?
Well, there is. At the time, there was a couple of them.
Mm.
So there is a Vernon Hill Hunt Club.
Oh.
And they're on the same road that we live on. And then there was, at the time, Backwoods Hunt Club. Mm. And they leased the property behind us.
Right.
All the acreage, the wooded acreage behind us for hunting.
Right.
And they had little, like a double wide trailer set up as their clubhouse down there.
Right.
And when we bought the property, they had been using it. They had been planting the fields in crops to attract the deer. Mm. And so when we bought the property, I guess they got sent a letter that told them to cease and desist, right? That there were new owners, so they couldn't be on our property without our permission. Mm. And we got a copy of that same letter before we left. The gentleman delivered it to us, and we were like, well, we don't care, you know?
Right.
And we said, well, how do we get a hold of these people? And they gave us the name of one of the gentlemen that was in the hunt club that was one of the officers. And they said, well, you can contact him, you know, and whatever you guys decide is between you. But legally, because the property has changed hands, okay, they have to cease and desist all activities. So it's like, okay. So we tried to get a hold of them and couldn't. We had to leave. But on our way home to Maine, we got a phone call from the gentleman, and I had to pass the phone to my husband. I will admit, the very southern accent. I
couldn't understand it.
Could not understand. For my first couple of years here, people probably thought that I was mentally challenged because I would constantly say, what? Huh? What? You know, because I just couldn't pick up on the dialect. And, you know, so they talked to Glenn. He's very good at it. And they talked to my husband, Glenn, and he told him, he said, you know, we don't care if you continue to, you know, use the property for hunting and things, right? Because we're just going to develop it as our vacation.
Right.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Fun. So we turned around and sorry.
Me.
No, it's
You're
me.
Fine. You good?
I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah, my watch will let me dismiss calls.
Okay.
And so the next time we came down, you know, they made a point to meet us, you know, and invite us down to the hunt club to have dinner and things. And that's how we got to know them. So
that was kind of the beginning of friendships and connections with them.
It was.
Before you moved here.
Before we moved here. Yeah. So after we put our mobile home on the lot and everything, they didn't really hunt on our property. They didn't shoot anything on our property. They would just plant the fields to attract the deer.
Right.
You know, and to keep the herd fed, which was fine with us. And so we all got to know each other.
Okay, so that's how you met hunt club people. How did you meet other people in that area?
Well, I worked from home that's kind of the only people that we knew till we moved down here.
And that was 10 years ago.
And that was 10 years ago.
And what prompted that move?
My husband was going to turn 60 the next June, and he just was tired of piling snow up to here, right? I mean, yeah, he was just tired of the snow.
Gotcha.
And he said, you know, we're getting too old for this.
Now, may I ask what your husband does?
Yeah, well, he had his own business in Maine. Well, he started off building houses and things. And then as he got older, he didn't want to be outside in the cold. So went to doing hardwood floors, tile floors, granite countertops,
Gotcha. Okay.
vanities, that type of stuff.
Okay.
Because
so building and construction.
Building and construction.
Okay.
And before we moved here, the last time we were down visiting was in November. We were here for hunt season because we would get an out-of-state license and we would join the hunt.
Right. What'd you hunt for? Deer?
Deer, yes.
And you carried a gun and hunted?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
I do crossbow.
Really?
I have my muzzle loader, which is my absolute favorite. And then I have a shotgun and I have my 7.
What's a 7?
A 7mm.
Like a pistol?
It's a rifle.
It's a rifle.
It's a rifle. My favorite weapon is my muzzle loader. Muzzle loader, you get 1 shot, right? So you have to make sure that your shot is perfect. Okay. I don't like having to track deer. Okay. So I'm very particular about what I shoot, and I'm very particular about how I shoot. Okay. I was trained in Maine. We had to take courses, and we had to go every week for several weeks.
Really?
Oh, yes.
That's interesting.
Yeah, they're very big on hunter safety.
Right.
You had to dress in all orange.
Right.
Down here, it's basically an orange hat, right? Up there, we had to look like the Great Pumpkin.
Right.
Okay.
Do you think that was better?
Yeah, they're still shot hunters.
Yeah.
There are some people that don't.
Even in full orange, people still got shot.
Even in full orange.
What's wrong with people?
They just
see movement and shoot.
Exactly. Yes, there are some people that as soon as they see movement. I mean, in Maine, they've shot cows before. They've shot moose, but not during moose season. During deer season, and they've shot people, unfortunately, because there are some people that are just motion hunters.
Right.
And in Maine, you're only allowed 1 deer per year. That's it. Down here, you're allowed 6. Okay.
So in Maine, you're much more selective about what you're going to shoot.
Exactly. We were raised to go body size. Okay, because you wanted that venison to fill your freezer. Right. Basically. Right. So we didn't shoot for horns, for trophies or anything. But my husband and I are both very particular. If a huge doe comes out, you say to yourself, oh, wow, okay, that would fill the freezer. But you always wait, because if a skipper is a yearling, okay, it's one of their babies, but they've lost their spots. So technically speaking, they can fend for themselves, okay? They don't need mama anymore. But we always wait, and if a skipper comes out, we go, you get a pass. Right? Because there's no way that I will shoot a doe with her baby, right? Yeah. Even though technically the baby is old enough.
But what you want's that big buck. Is that ultimately what people want?
Down here, people ultimately want the horns and things, right? That was another shocker, okay, is that they look for the rack size, okay? They want a trophy deer. We look for body size. We want the meat, right? Now, they also want the meat, but because they're allowed 6, right, they figure they can, get that anytime they want. Okay, they're really hunting for the big antlered deer.
Well, comparing 1 to 6, yeah. I could see the logic.
The logic behind it, right? Yeah. But I mean, I shot does in Maine that were 200 pounds.
Is that big? I don't know.
That's big compared to down here. Down here, like 120 pounds is about average.
Oh, that's a big difference.
It's a big difference.
Yeah.
And, so we actually haven't shot one for the last 3 or 4 years. My husband was hurt for a couple years. And then the last couple of years, we just haven't seen a deer worth shooting.
Do you participate in hunting with the club or just kind of on your own, on your property?
No, we participate with the club.
Okay.
Okay, right. We are members. But on my property, we kind of don't hunt.
Right.
We have one doe that has twins every year.
Oh, wow.
Yep, every year. And she stays, we know where she beds down, we know where she stays. And when her little ones are still very spotted, but old enough to move around, she'll bring them out onto the front lawn, you know,
Wow.
and eat, or out in the pasture and eat. And, you know, so we just, yeah, we don't hunt what comes onto our property
Gotcha.
to eat.
Okay, so the other hunt club, or is it the same hunt club, or the one that was asked to leave, or said cease and desist? No, that's the one.
Yeah, that's the
Okay.
one.
So the one you still participate with, because I was asking about how you met people. That's how you initially met people,
Mm-hmm.
and then you said you started meeting more people when you moved here 10 years ago. And what precipitated that was primarily the weather. You wanted warmer weather.
We wanted the seasons, but we wanted
Okay, so
a gentler winter.
So you moved here 10 years ago. How did you start networking in the county then?
Well, my first year here, I really didn't. My husband went to work for Burton, J.E. Burton.
Doing construction.
He was he's as a supervisor. And that's where he continues today. But I worked from home. So basically my first year here, I didn't know anybody other than the boys from Hunt Club. So when hunting season came around, I was very happy, right. To have some company. But my second year here, I started going to the Halifax Farmers Market. Mm. And I met Denise Barksdale, who runs it. And
she's also the assistant
town manager. Yes.
Of Halifax.
Halifax. Yeah. Yep. And we got to talking, and I told her I made homemade perfumes, salves, things like that, and
salves for you Southerners.
Okay, yeah, sorry. And you know, she said, "Well, you can be an outdoor vendor," and got me an application and things. So I started going to the Halifax Farmers Market,
and that was like 8 years ago. You had been there that long? I didn't realize that, but I didn't go to that one very much then. Yeah. Oh, actually, I was probably out of the country during that time. Okay, but go ahead.
Yeah, so I was...
and you would have met a lot of people there.
I met a lot of people, and people in the South are very friendly. Mm. Okay. And so after, like, the first season of being outside, a space became available inside, and she invited us to participate inside. So we actually ended up with 2 booths inside, and we were there for 5 years.
That, I think, is the first time I met y'all, because when you walk in to the building, there's stuff here. Y'all were like right here, weren't you?
Right there, yep.
Yeah. And because I remember, I think it was your husband was running it at the time you weren't there, because I remember him telling me, we've got a little shop up the street now. How long were you at the market before you opened your shop?
We were at the market for 5 years.
That's market for you Southerners.
I'm
picking up on it now.
Yeah.
Market. It reminds me of Boston. But anyway, sorry.
Okay. All of New England is kind of, yeah. It's kind of like that.
All right. So you were at the market for how long and then opened your shop?
We were at the market for 5 years, and then we opened the shop.
Okay.
I was in Halifax for 2 years.
Okay. And the shop was called?
Lotions, Potions, and More.
Lotions, Potions, and More. And you were right on the main street. Now, did you stop doing the farmer's market once you got your shop?
The first year we did both.
Okay.
And that's why my husband was down at the farmer's market while I was up at the store.
Right.
Okay.
And tell me all about that experience of having a shop in Halifax.
Well, it started off great. Okay. You know, I think because it was new. Okay, even though we had been at the farmer's market, we still got customers that saw a new store.
Yeah,
okay,
and it wasn't just
an actual storefront.
Because you had told Denise you made homemade things, but the store was much more than that. Tell me more about the store itself.
Yep, the store is eclectic. Okay, we have the homemade pain relief creams, lotions. Yeah, like I said, scents, right? Perfumes and things. But I also have incense. We have T-shirts, okay, because we heat pressed our own T-shirts. So we had those for sale. My husband would make wooden shelves and things, and I would macrame. So I would make macrame wall hangings. I made macrame towel holders, macrame hanging shelves. He'd do the wood part, I'd do the macrame. Um, and then, of course, I have the area that some people would call it Wiccan. Other people would call it pagan. It basically has to do with the craft. Okay. Now the craft knows no religion. Okay. People from all religions can practice the craft. And the craft is nothing more than different ways to send your intent out to the universe. Okay. Everything is energy.
Yeah.
Right? Everything.
Very close-knit with nature.
Very close-knit with nature. Everything is energy. We're all connected. Okay, and everything is connected.
And you had really good cards there, because I know as I got to know the store, I went in more often, and I've gotten Lenormand cards there. They have tarot cards, but I don't do tarot. Yeah, there was incense, candles, just a lot of really cool stuff. And I noticed your clientele whenever I was in there. The age range was vast.
It is. It is very vast. Yep. And I have, some very loyal customers.
And you had some naysayers too.
I did have some naysayers.
Tell me about one of those.
Okay.
If you want to.
Okay. Unfortunately, a customer was in the store, and it was her first time in, but she wanted incense. And she found the rack of incense, and she brought them over, and I rung her up and everything. And when she was leaving, she noticed me putting together a spell kit. And a spell, again, is nothing more than a way to focus your intent.
Yeah.
Okay. And I was putting it out on the rack because I make my own spell kits. And she came over to look at it and kind of went a little pale, got a little shaky, and she said, "Did you do anything to my incense?"
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I said, no, ma'am. You picked them up off the shelf. You can see they're sealed. I don't like that stuff. It's like, okay. And she said, "But did you do anything to my incense?" And I said, "No, I didn't. And if it would ease your mind, I'll gladly take them back, refund your money."
Right. Yeah.
And she thought about it for a second and then just said, "Well, no, as long as you're sure you didn't do anything to them." I said, "Ma'am, I did not do that. That is actually against everything I believe in."
Right.
Okay. That's interfering with somebody's free will. And you just don't do that.
Yeah.
That's a huge no.
Yeah. So the store was open for 2 years?
2 years.
And then you decided to move? Tell me about that.
Yeah, we decided to move. I would get a lot of phone calls from my customers, and they would say, "I wanted to stop at the store to pick this up or to pick that up, and I just couldn't find a parking spot." And
let me stop just for 1 second for anybody that doesn't understand about no parking in Halifax, Virginia. The courthouse is right there. She was like directly across the street from the courthouse. So when court's in session, yeah, you got to park miles away.
You do. And I understand that the town has other areas that you can park in. Okay. Now, first off, they were using the old Exxon station. They said, people can park down there and just walk up. Well, some of my customers are much older. Okay. They have canes, they have walkers, some in wheelchairs. And it's just not possible.
And you couldn't dedicate a couple spots in front of your store. It was all public.
No.
Right?
Yeah, it's all public. Now, it was supposed to be 1 hour parking.
Right.
Okay, that was never enforced.
Right.
Or very rarely. And, then it was, well, they can park on Houston Street, which is behind the shops. Now, I did have a back entrance to the building that I was leasing. However, you would have to go up these very steep stairs, so I never had that open, right? Um, so that was all blocked off. So if they parked on Houston Street, they would have had to walk all the way down Houston Street
Right.
and then cut through down by Molasses Grill and them.
Mm.
Okay. Because that's the only end of the street that they had done a walkway through.
Right.
Okay. And then again, uphill on uneven sidewalks. So I know the town of Halifax hates hearing that parking is an issue, but it's true.
Is that pretty much the main reason y'all left?
That, and there were some issues with the building, I won't lie. There was some water leaks and things that the landlord was trying to fix. You know, the roofing companies had been out several times. Nobody seemed to be able to take care of it. So, you know, there were some issues like that. And so we moved to South Boston to Seymour Drive, mainly because of, you know, the parking. The building was easier to access. We got a little bit larger space for the same rent. And we thought, okay, you know, now we've got parking, right? The biggest complaint that we heard has now been resolved.
Which was?
The parking.
So from Halifax. So
yeah.
Now, okay, so moving to South Boston solved that problem.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, so now there's parking on both sides of the street, you know, plenty of parking. And right in front of the store. And the first few months were good. You know, we advertised that we had moved. We had posters up in the old location that we had moved. Put it all over Facebook, everything. It took people quite some time to find us, right? Even our loyal customers, they were like, wow, I finally found you. It's like, you know, we advertised it in the papers, everything.
Yeah.
And
there doesn't seem to be a central location for information here, which is something I'm trying to accomplish with this website. But yeah, like if there's grand openings or something, a lot of people don't get the paper. Especially young people, they're not going to read a newspaper.
No, and they didn't see it on Facebook.
Right.
Or they didn't pay attention to it on Facebook.
They live somewhere like Vernon Hill, they can't get internet, so they couldn't.
Right?
All kinds of things. Yeah.
Yes, that's a huge problem there. And, you know, it just got that business was so slow, okay, that I actually wrote my first book and my second book at the shop.
Right. You even had a crystal shop move in next door. I thought that would
Crystal shop was next door, you know.
Are they still open?
They moved to Main Street, to where Wister's was.
Oh, over there. Yeah.
Yeah, they moved to there.
How was their business? Was it slow too?
It was about the same. Yep. You know, and we would share, you know, if I had a customer come in and things and they were interested in that type of things, I would always say, oh, you need to go next door, you know, and see Blake and Summer over at the Crystal store. And they would do the same. They would reciprocate, right? They would say, oh, you need to go see Mary at Lotions, Potions,
Let me ask you this. Do you think part of it was that maybe the content didn't feel a niche enough here? Or, you know, a lot of people are leaving Halifax County. Maybe it's just that there's not enough people to support small businesses. Or do you think it's a combination of both?
I think it's a combination. Because we had, like I said, we're eclectic, so we had so much more than that area. That was basically, you know, a separate room. Right. Okay, and most of the main part of the store, you know, we had jams and jellies. We had honey.
Those wood shelves were cool. I love those that your husband built, the planters and all that stuff. And all the macrame you had on the wall, that was cool. Yep. I mean, you even had things like belts and wallets.
Belts, wallets, hats, and things for men. We had little musical instruments for children, wooden puzzles for children. Yeah. You know, so we had quite a bit, a huge selection, right? Right. And
so how long were you at that location?
We were there a year.
Really? Was it only a year?
It was only a year.
Dang.
Yep.
So you made the decision to depart.
Right, because I just couldn't justify the costs.
Yeah, of course.
The business wasn't supporting it. So when we came from Maine, we had a little enclosed trailer. It's a 17-foot enclosed trailer that my husband up in Maine had used. He'd bring it to the construction sites, right? When we moved down here, it just wasn't being used. It was registered and everything, but it just wasn't being used. So he said, I'm going to make that so that you can take your things to market again. So we kind of went full circle. So we're back at Halifax Market, outside vendor. I'm not there every week. At our age and everything, I kind of want to spend time with my husband.
I was just going to interject here too and say, what a kind, supporting husband you have throughout the years.
I absolutely do. Absolutely. I mean, he's my soulmate.
How long have y'all been married?
42 years.
Wow. And children?
No.
Okay. But you've had quite an adventure together from the sounds of it. Okay, so if somebody wants to come see you in your portable store at the market, how would they know if you're going to be there?
I put it on Facebook.
Okay. And is it still under Lotions and Potions?
Lotions, Potions, and More.
Lotions, Potions, and More. And I guess I just send her a private message on Facebook. And I'm like, are you here this weekend? Because I need some incense or whatever. So she's very open and responsive. Not like a lot of people in this county. She will reply and say, yes, I'm there, or no, I'm not there. But yeah, check it out. She got cool t-shirts too.
Yeah, and they...
and those wall hanging things. I bought one of those. It had like a sun, moon, stars with the jewels hanging. What do you call those?
Yeah, they are just wall hangings.
Okay, because you've got mandalas too, don't you? The big ones.
We have the big tapestries.
Okay.
And they're 3D.
Yeah, those are cool.
They are. I got them because my distributor said to me, hey, we've got this new product, right? We have these 3D tapestries. And somewhere in my little pea brain, I'm thinking, oh, wow, they found a way to make tapestries 3D. So I ordered them. When they came in, it's lo and behold, they came with 3D glasses. I said, oh. I mean, it was like, okay.
Oh, you were thinking dimensional.
I was.
Like physically.
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
I was thinking somehow they had woven it into the fabric of these tapestries, right? That they were, like you said, dimensional 3D.
Well, do they sell, though, even with the...
Oh, yes, they do. Because they're beautiful, even if you're not wearing glasses.
Now, I know that you can't carry all of this in your portable store, but you do have a website, and people can ask, hey, this was on your website, can you have it at the market, or can you order it, or what, however.
Yes, they can order online.
What's the website?
Lopomore.com.
Spell it?
So it's LOPOMORE.com.
Okay. Do you have a card with all this on it?
I don't have one with me, but
because I can put this at the end of this video, maybe this, or I'll just put for further contact, and I'll put your Facebook site, and they can get it that way.
Yeah,
I'll do that at the end of it.
Okay,
sounds good. All right. So now you're portable, but you did mention that when your business was so slow the year you had the shop over on Seymour in South Boston, that you wrote a book. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I did. I wrote the book, The Curse of Aubrey Island.
Let's see that. Tell me about it.
Okay.
Genre, all that stuff.
The genre is a young adult, action, adventure, paranormal, fantasy type. Now, the magic that's in the book is not a lot of fictional magic. Okay, it's more based on what someone in the pagan religion
Give me an example.
would do. Okay, so an example is the girls are pagan orphans who are raised in a Catholic orphanage. Okay, so to continue practicing without people noticing, their drink in the morning, their coffee, they will stir their coffee with intent. Okay, that's part of the craft.
Right.
Okay. You're putting your intent out there, and they're stirring clockwise. Okay. They will steal candles, white candles, from the supply room.
What do white candles symbolize?
White candles are usually for purity.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Okay. You can substitute them for anything. Okay. But for putting their intentions out for the next day, they would just do a little candle magic ritual. Okay. Where they would dress the candle with oils and herbs and just light it, and the two girls would perform their what they considered to be a ritual,
right,
to send their intent out for whatever they were hoping for, or how they'd like their next day to go, right? I hope we have a good day tomorrow.
It's ironic that you mentioned there. I was raised in a Catholic, whatever you call it, too. And it's very much ritualistic. And when you talk about pagan rituals, some people freak out. But when you talk about Christian or religious or whatever rituals, they're like, oh, that's so great. When it's really almost the same thing. Because when you pray, you're asking for something good to happen. When I light a candle, or anybody, whatever, and say, I hope I have a good day, or please, I hope there's some prosperity. It's really, the commonality is amazing to me, but the perception isn't.
That's so true. And you have to realize that Christianity is one of the youngest religions. Okay. And it's got different aspects that are borrowed from other religions.
Very heavily, yeah.
Every religion is like that. I studied religion when I was in college for one semester, and it was world religions. And I've read the Gita, which is the Bible from India. Okay, and of course I've read the Bible, and I've read other texts and things. I have participated. I'll say my mother was raised Catholic, so, but then converted to Baptist and Methodist and whole thing there. But I participated with friends in the 7-day evangelists or whatever.
7-day Adventists. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I think women have to wear hats or something in that one.
Yeah, we didn't. We
We
just participated with them to see, to visit their church and see their things.
Right.
The same way with and I can't even think of the name of them. People were very prejudiced against them for years because they would go door to door.
Right. Mormons or Latter-day Saints something. I don't know. There's a bunch of them. Moonies.
I mean, so I looked at all the religions.
Scientologists, that's one.
But a lot of them have the same premise.
Yeah.
Okay. The names have been changed.
Yeah.
Okay. But
to protect the guilty.
But the premise is the same. Right? Yeah. And it's like, okay, these guys do this. Catholics, for example, always use the frankincense and myrrh.
Yeah.
And they'll smudge with that, right?
Yeah. And the palm, whatever. Yeah.
Yep. So that's incense.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So let's go back to the book. So it's two young orphan girls who were raised as pagans, but they're in a Catholic orphanage. I don't want to give away the book, but just give me like a cloud of story.
So the one girl ages out before the other. And so that means that when they turn 18, they have to leave the orphanage. Okay. They're no longer considered orphans.
Right.
So Dominique is left on her own for a year. Okay. Before she ages out. And on the night that she's aging out, the night before she ages out, actually, she goes up to the rooftop to view the full moon and to speak to the goddess. She's looking for the goddess to help her get a job, and because her friends have offered to let her stay with them in their apartment. And the goddess reveals that her destiny is so much more than that. Her destiny is to break a century-old curse of this island, Havre, and that's the French word for haven. And the island has been cursed to be shrouded in tall cliffs and uninhabitable land, when in reality, a whole community of Romani, witches, people like that, people of the non-conforming religions that live and have lived for a couple hundred years. And they can't leave the island, and nobody can go to the island. And she is tasked with breaking that curse.
Gotcha. Tell me how well it's been received.
It's actually been received really well locally. Yeah. Okay. I still have a marketing team that's kind of working on the whole Amazon sales and things like that. But locally, I've done really quite well.
Excellent.
And several of the people that have read the first one are waiting for the second one.
Tell me about the second one. Is it a continuance of the first one?
It is.
Okay. So it's still these two girls out in the world.
Actually, she gains a few more friends. Okay. So there's a huge mansion on the island, and she now lives there. Okay. And with the help of locals and things, she discovers the secrets of the manor itself. Okay. So in the second book, The Secrets of Havre Manor.
That's what it's called, because this one's called The Curse of Havre Island. So the second one is The Secrets of Havre Manor. Okay.
Okay. There are magical crystals. And those crystals that were gifted to different people in the community, okay, to either boost their psychic powers for the Romani who tell fortunes, gifted to the farmers to help their crops grow bigger, lusher, okay, tastier, and the witches for helping to boost their healing salves and things that they make, their healing potions and stuff. And now that after the curse is broken and the island can be seen, tourists will come, right? So the crystals are failing. And her ancestor, who mined the crystals in the first place, mined enough to last for generations, but hid them and then was murdered before he could tell where they were hidden.
Do you know what this is reminding me of a little bit? Nancy Drew. That was my favorite series as a child.
Yeah, mystery and clues.
I loved that book series. So are you going to have more? Is this going to continue?
I'm working on book 3.
Okay.
Okay. So book 3 is coming along a little slower. There's, life has kind of gotten in the way where I haven't gotten a chance to really work on it.
Right. Do you find it comes naturally to you? Does it flow?
It does.
Yeah.
It does. Sometimes it takes me a little bit to get into it. Right. Okay. If there's too much going on in other areas of my life, it takes me a little bit to finally settle down and focus.
Right.
This book here, because I wrote it in the store and had plenty of time to focus, this one took me, I had the idea of it for a couple of years, okay, just little bits and pieces. And then it took me probably about 4 months to write. My second book took me 2 months to write.
Wow.
Yeah, that one just really flowed really fast.
Right.
My third book, again, life has kind of gotten in the way, so I haven't spent a lot of time on it, so I think I'm only on chapter 5.
But still, anything under a year, I've, met people writing books and they've been working on it for 10 years. I'm not kidding. So that's great. So it does sound like it flows well. Had you thought about writing before?
I have always thought about writing a book. And I used to say that to my husband.
Because a lot of people say that. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people say that.
Accomplishment. And you've done it. Here it is in my hand.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And he would say to me, why don't you just write a book? Right? Because I would complain, things were really slow at the store.
Right.
And he'd say, why don't you write a book?
Right.
And it's like, I've had this idea running around in my head for a couple of years, just starting off bits and pieces.
Right.
And it's like, maybe I will.
Yeah.
That's
so cool. So potentially you could have a Harry Potter series, maybe 10 long.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
And I'm an avid reader. Yeah. And I'll read just about anything. Yeah. I mean, growing up, I love Shakespeare. I love Poe. But I like Bradbury, Stephen King, of course.
Yeah.
But I just love to read. And I do like to write. And I wrote poetry when I was in high school. Never published it. I had an offer, but I didn't take it because poetry to me always got me through kind of my hard times.
Would you reconsider that now, or do you still feel that way?
No, I still feel that way. It was just really personal.
Yeah.
Really personal. And it was meant for only me. Unfortunately, my sister stole my writings and brought them to an English professor. And he wanted to publish them. And it was like, no, those are mine.
Right.
Never. And
recently I had a conversation with a local artist who I'm interviewing in the next week or two. And she did a lot of things around town, but then it started becoming commercial. People wanted to pay her to do this, and it was their idea. It just like burned her out. She doesn't even want to do it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like, ew. So there's certain things that are sacred and personal. And it should never be monetized because it spoils it.
Yeah, and like I said, poetry helped me get through some really hard times.
Right.
The death of my grandmother, who I was very close to, things like that. And it just, writing, creating helped me get through those times, but it was never for anybody else to read.
Gotcha.
It was kind of my self-therapy.
Yeah.
But I did always want to write a book. It's funny because they call it young adult fiction, which they then age. Okay. They say appropriate for age groups, like 14 to 60.
Is this the marketing people you're talking about? Okay.
And it's like, okay, yeah, that's young adult.
Young adult up to 60.
Yeah.
Okay, so I can call myself a young adult.
I guess, right? And, my youngest fan is 8. I believe his mother is reading it to him. But he's 8 years old. And my oldest, I think, is well into her 70s.
Wow. Now, when the second one is you said it may be here tomorrow, but we can't count on it.
Right, yeah.
Then you'll go to the market and do book signings too, right?
I will.
You did that for this one, I know, because I've got one.
Yes, yeah.
All right, excellent.
Yeah, and anytime I'm at the market, I usually have my books with me.
Okay, cool.
And I'm always willing to sign.
Yeah.
Sign them for people.
Have you met other writers in the county?
I actually have. I was invited to the writers group.
There's a writers group in town?
There's a writers group in town.
I've learned so much.
Ron Miller.
The guy that's at the Cozy Cave, he writes books. And I think they're young adult.
I don't.
Because I went in there one time to rent. Part of Cozy Cave is they have storage rentals. It's just right up here in town. And they also rent like U-Hauls. And that's where I go to rent U-Hauls. And I went in one day and he had all these posters on the wall. And I was like, oh, you must like movies or something. He said, no, those are my book covers. I was like, oh.
That might be Ron. I don't know.
They have a religious spin to them?
No, Ron's is more, he does a lot of paintings and things of the planets and stuff.
I don't think that would be him. But anyway, so there's a writers club. How many people are in it?
There is.
A dozen or more?
There was several. Unfortunately, one of the oldest women passed away last week,
Mm.
and her husband is in the hospital
Oh no.
right now.
Mm.
So, there might be like 6 of us that will be there. They meet once a month.
Mm.
We were meeting in the library, and now they've changed it to the visitor center in South Boston.
So who's welcome into this club? Only published writers? Anyone with an interest in writing, or what?
I myself have only gone to 2 meetings because it's all new for me,
right,
as well. I think it would be both.
Okay, yeah, I'd just love to hear about groups like that because it's such a good human connection with the commonality.
It is, and I think they would welcome other people. Ron Miller is basically running it.
Right.
Right now.
Maybe you could give me his contact information and I could podcast with him.
Yeah, I have his Facebook.
Yeah, or just tell him I'm interested in interviewing him and give him my information.
Yeah.
That way you want, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
We actually, I believe, are meeting Thursday.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, this Thursday.
Right.
I'm pretty sure it's this.
That'd be a good time. Or if I could even come and film the whole group, that would be. But a lot of people aren't comfortable with that, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, bring it up for me. I'd appreciate it.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So let's talk a little bit more about your tenure living in Halifax County. I know you were talking about accents were difficult for you, but you had good networking. You've met some good hunting people. Tell me a little bit more about what you feel about. Well, first of all, do you follow local politics at all?
I actually don't.
Okay.
The only time I would go to the Halifax town meetings when I had my store in Halifax.
Right. Okay.
Because we would bring up issues like the parking or other issues. I was there for the solar project that they wanted to put in on Crawford Road.
Right.
I was there. I was actually in support of that.
Right. Yeah, that's a big controversial issue in the county right now.
It is. And
so do you follow any of the county stuff going on? Not much?
Not much.
Okay.
I really don't.
What do you see then as maybe some challenges or opportunities that you've come across about living here in general?
Well, I think that, one challenge, especially for like the town of Halifax, okay, is keeping businesses on Main Street.
Right.
It really is.
What's the occupancy rate? Do you know?
I don't, but I can tell you that. So the building I was in is empty.
Is it still?
It is still.
Wow.
Empty. The one just above it was Triangle Florist, and I know that he's trying to reopen that.
And Greenbacker retired.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a cluster of buildings there. Yeah.
Yep. And so, isn't that terrible when you can't think of the name of stores
no, I interrupted,
that are right there beside you?
But what you're speaking at?
But they're going out. He's retiring, and they're going out.
Yeah.
They're having a big retirement sale.
Is it the furniture one? That's what I'm thinking of.
Difficult Creek Antiques moved.
Where'd they go?
They're in the process of moving. She actually built a barn on her property.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right.
Yeah, and it's going to do it there.
But what you're describing is analogous of the entire county. I hear this same story in South Boston. We have too many empty buildings, or this isn't working, or small businesses aren't doing well. So what do you see? If we put that together collectively, I mean, I know you can't say, well, we just need to do this and that'll solve the problem. But what do you see as some potential solutions, or what's the hindrance? Why are we not set up for these businesses to be successful? That's where I'm going.
I think that a lot of times it's the fact that the buildings are old. Okay. So the shape of them a lot of times is not that great. Okay. So the people that, if they want to open a store and lease it, they have to do a lot of renovation themselves. Okay. So on top of leasing a property, they're also going in and spending their money Okay, on painting.
Somebody else's property.
Somebody else's property.
See, I don't understand that, because to buy a house, it has to meet certain standards in order to sell it.
Right. So
But that's not the case for business rentals?
Well, a lot of them that have them for rent will say, well, no, it's fine as is. I mean, you can move in as is. Well, it's like, well, yeah, no. You know, the floors are bad, or, you know, the walls really need to be repainted, things like that. But the landlords and such aren't willing to put the money into it. And I'm not saying every landlord, because that's not true. Some are, and they can usually rent their buildings, right? But the condition of the buildings, and there doesn't seem to be a lot of help from the towns. Okay, the towns themselves.
I've been there. I've rented a place and sunk a lot of money into it.
Right?
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, advertising is expensive.
Yeah.
It is. Advertising is expensive. So you advertise, you know, on Facebook, you advertise in the newspaper. We only have one newspaper now, right? And a lot of the younger generation don't even bother with the newspaper.
No, they're all about 3-second TikToks.
You know, they're all about TikTok. I don't personally do
Not 30
TikTok.
30-second TikToks.
You know.
Yeah. There's just too much rubbish on it, you know?
Yeah.
If it was just news, events, whatever,
yeah,
then I could probably stand it, but there's just so much fluff.
Well, there is, and because it's everywhere. But I think that a lot of people drive through the towns, okay, because they're probably the only road to get there, you know, 501 and such.
Right.
But they don't stop. Okay. Now, if there's an event, they will.
Right.
Okay.
Like racing or...
racing, or if there's a festival of some sort, or the fair, or something like that.
There's a couple of big festivals here, the Harvest Festival and the Cantaloupe Festival.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That are kind of attractive. But it doesn't pop statewide.
It doesn't. And, you know, the difference is, when we lived in Maine, we lived in the country, and we weren't that far from Freiburg. Freiburg State Fair, okay, is one of the largest fairs.
Okay. In the state?
In the state.
Okay.
Okay. And we would go to the fair because the fair had Woodsman's Day, right? So you had woodsmen doing different things. But there was at least 6 buildings that had the crafts, you know, that 4-H and everybody does.
Right.
There were at least 12 buildings of animals.
Right.
Okay. Where the kids could go see farm animals and things. They actually had a working milking station, okay, behind glass, that the kids could watch someone go milk a cow.
Right.
Okay. You could wander through and see the kids doing 4-H, you know, shearing their sheep.
Right.
Okay. Washing down their cattle, things like that. Their goats and things. They had oxen pulls. They had horse racing. They had all this stuff, right? It's a week-long event, and it was huge.
Right.
Okay. So when we moved here, we said, oh, they have a fair.
You can ride the Ferris wheel.
They had a few rides, you know, midway section and all.
Right.
No animal barns to speak of, you know. And the food vendors, I think when we went, it was like 4. That's like...
So you've addressed, you say that you don't follow local politics much, but you've addressed 2 of the main topics that have been going on with this election coming up, and some responsibilities of the Board of Supervisors. 1, economic development and how it needs to be supported and resourced. 2, recreation, the lack thereof. And these are things that contribute to the declining population. And to get the population increasing, all these other things need to be developed. So that's 2 opportunities, challenges, whatever we want to call it, that you've mentioned and given some very good, clear-cut examples of in the county. Let's talk a little bit more about other things in the county that you find potential challenges. Like we spoke about race relations. Let's talk about that for a minute.
Yeah. Coming from the north, right, and living in the north most of my life, we really didn't have many African Americans that lived in Maine. Mm. And so growing up, I did not go to school with any until I hit high school. And then there was one young lady, very beautiful, smart, intelligent young lady. And in Maine, she was just one of the gang. She was accepted. When we started coming south, and even just coming down on vacation, we would hear things from people that we considered friends.
Hunt club people?
Some hunt club people, yeah, mostly hunt club people that had no issue using the N-word.
Did you have conversations about it with them?
They found nothing wrong with it, and just, unfortunately, too many, and not just people in the hunt club, but too many people that I've met segregate, right? And to me, they are racist. Okay, they might say that they're not, but it kind of still feels that way to me. And I'll give you an example. We had someone trying to give us directions to their house. And they said, yeah, I'm just down the street from the black church. We drove up and down that road multiple times. My husband said, did you see a black church? I said, I did not. So went home. Next time we were invited, they were like, you just go by the black church and we're the next road. Hey, I've been up and down this road every time I go to town. That's church. So he looked again, and he was like, I don't know. Am I blind? It's like, I said, I don't know. I said, and it doesn't make any sense to me anyway that somebody would paint their church black, but okay. I said, we're just going to have to clarify this the next time we see them. I'm just done. Next time we saw them, we said, listen, we have been up and down this road 100 times now. We don't see a black church. They're all white. I don't understand what you're saying. And they just looked at us and said, no, stupid, it's where the black people go.
Oh, my goodness.
And we just were kind of like, wait a minute, I'm the one that's stupid?
Yeah. It's interesting because when I talk to white people in this county, I would say virtually all of them say it's exaggerated or there is no race issue. When I talk to black people, absolutely it's here, but we don't want to talk about it out of fear or whatever reason. Recently, I was giving somebody a lift in Turbeville, and he lived across from a church. And I said, there's not much here, is there? And he said, well, no, we got the two churches. I said, yeah, what kind of churches? And I asked him, and he was a black rider that I was giving a ride to. And I asked him, why is it a black church and a white church? And he said, that's just the way it is. It's the way it's always been. So therefore, when I was out in other places in the county, I started asking the same questions. And that's one place that's still very much segregated here. And I was trying to understand, is it a cultural thing or is it a race thing? I think it's a bit of both. And then I met somebody, and he was telling me about his church had invited a black church to their church to have a mutual gathering. Mm-hmm. And I was going to go cover it, but what he didn't tell me was it was actually a church, and I don't go to church. So I thought it was a social thing because I thought, how great. But he said the purpose of it was trying to bridge that. So they had the black preacher and the white preacher make their little sermons to the mixed crowd. And I thought, well, that's great. And you would think something that's so important in this county, in the South, and wherever, whatever, would do more of that and not have such segregated when it comes to something that's really important to people. And I went to another event that it was some, I can't even remember what the thing was, but basically it was food, they had like Brunswick stew or something. And when I went in, I was fully expecting it to be 100% white. There was a black couple there, 99% white. But I thought, okay, but this was the same one that hosted this mixed event. So maybe it can gradually start integrating more, because what's the difference?
Well, I think that the white churches, as you call them, okay, are more strict and standard with how they're led, okay? And I mean like the choir, everything, okay? Whereas colored churches, okay, where African Americans worship, to me is more like the old-fashioned revival. Okay.
Have you been in a black church?
I have not.
I haven't either.
Okay. I have seen things, just documentaries and things.
Yeah.
But I used to participate when we were young. We would go up to visit relatives in Canada. And we'd always be there at the time of the summer revival.
Like tent revivals.
Tent revivals.
Right. You are healed.
Well, yes. Yep. But you didn't go to sleep because the preacher was loud. He was bold.
Right.
He kept you, I don't want to say entertained. I mean, he kept your attention. Okay. And the singing was very, joyous. There was a lot of clapping and everybody singing, not just the choir singing, right? It was, everybody was participating. The audience, the followers, everybody. So, yeah, you learned your lesson, okay? They always had a lesson, of course. But there was a lot of just joyous happiness that wasn't specifically contained, okay, as much as like a Catholic church or okay,
intimately familiar.
Yes.
Well, and I think part of something too may be that the white churches have become so political. Where's the joy when we're just worried about denigrating other people? You see what I'm saying?
The other thing I always had an issue with on religion was God. And that is that people would turn around and say, God will help us persevere to smite this one or smite that one, right? Or to overcome these people. Now, in my view, I don't think God condones any war. Really.
Yeah.
If you have things where, it says treat others as you want to be treated yourself. Okay. I don't know. And I don't like the structure, the really truly structured. We participated in a friend's, well, we didn't participate. We were part of the people that went to a friend's wedding. Now, they were Catholic.
Right.
Now, in the old days, okay, you couldn't go if you weren't Catholic. You couldn't be part of the wedding party if you weren't Catholic. The whole 9 yards. But in Maine, at one of the newer churches, it was, everybody's welcome.
Right.
Okay. And so they were getting married. And my husband was like, I've never been to a Catholic church. He said, I don't know what to expect. I said, don't worry about it, sweetheart. They will tell you when to sit, when to stand, when to kneel.
Yeah.
I said, you just follow everybody else. I said, but
extremely ritualistic.
they will tell you.
Yeah.
Everybody sit, everybody stand, everybody kneel.
Yeah.
You know, I said, you don't have to worry about knowing anything because they'll tell you.
Yeah.
You know, it's very directed.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of times the other, you know, what we're calling white churches are the same.
Right.
You know, they're very directed.
Yeah.
In how their service goes. Yeah.
Well, so aside from the obvious, what we're talking about, segregation within religion, talking about race relations in Halifax County, you know, we've both mentioned some things. Do you see it on an everyday basis here when you're out interacting with the public, or is it more covert?
I would have to say that it's more covert, or just kind of the way people handle things. I mean, I've seen people move away from someone, you know, change sides of the aisle. Right. And I don't believe that it's, you know, oh, there was no space to get by, because there was. Right. You know, unfortunately, a lot of times it's how we're raised, right? Yeah.
And it does go both ways.
It does go both ways.
I've had some interesting conversations with a good friend of mine who's of color, and she's told me some stories about her upbringing, being taught to never trust. But the thing is, there's reason for that, you know.
Well, there is.
But I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's where it needs to change.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. And these conversations need to be had.
You know, it's so funny because when I was very young, and we're talking 4 years old, we had this shopping center in Maine that was called Arlen's, and that's where my mother shopped. Okay. And especially for, you know, school clothes for my brothers, things like that. So we were in the parking lot, and people of color were very rare in Maine. I think because of the cold. Anybody with any intelligence wouldn't live there because of the cold. But, so we came out of the store, and we were going to the vehicle. It was just my mom and I. And I saw a man with his little son, and I went, "Oh, look, Mama, a chocolate baby." Because I had never...
Didn't have the exposure to it. Yeah.
Been exposed, right, to people of a different race.
Right.
And because my mother was just so embarrassed. And the gentleman looked at his son and said, "Look, son, a snowball." So, you know, they took it.
Right.
You know, there was no fighting or anything, but I mean, I did embarrass my mom, but I had no idea. And, you know, it was just, but that's how it was, you know, so that was the extent of,
right.
You know, and you might call that racism. I don't know, but I just.
Yeah. All right. I want to move to a national level a little bit now. Let's talk about, we don't have to go into any specifics, but how are you feeling about the national political landscape?
You know, I just think that this country is going to hell in a handbasket.
Tell me why.
You know, I don't think that the United States treasures their elderly like other countries do. Okay? You're talking about people that have lived for decades, that have all this wisdom, okay, all this knowledge, but once you reach a certain age, people just kind of throw you away, right? They feel that you don't have anything left to give society because, you know, you're no longer physically fit to be able to lift and carry and things like that, right? So I don't think that the United States has any respect at all for the elderly population. I think that, uh, there's huge discussions about abortions. Now, do I believe they should be banned completely? No, it's against my personal belief, okay? But I strongly, strongly disagree with late-term abortions. I'm sorry. To me, that is murder, okay? Um, and I just can't see anybody condoning that. There's too many people in this world, such as my husband and myself when in our younger years, that would have loved to have been able to adopt a baby without it costing, $50,000 to $100,000 to adopt a baby. Okay, we were never able to do it, so I don't have children. I just think that there's too many other options. Okay, do I think that someone who is raped or incest or something like that should be made to carry a pregnancy to term? No, I don't. But I also think that that type of decision can be made within the first 2 or 3 months. Okay. So I'm not totally against abortion. I mean, it has its place. Okay. But I've also known people that have used abortion as birth control.
So do you think a better solution than regulating a woman's body might be educating people at a younger age on responsibility of sex?
Yeah. Because we're not a country that hides birth control.
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. But, we're not. You can get birth control. Okay. Do I believe that parents should know? Yeah, I think they should. No different than transitioning. Okay. If somebody feels that they were born male but want to be female, or vice versa, but they're very young, do I think the parents need to be informed? Yes.
And they are.
Yes, but some will argue that some are in favor of not.
But that's not a law or anything or regulated.
Yes.
See, sometimes I think that's brought up as a little spook factor.
Well, I think that's brought up because some people that are running believe that it should be.
Right. Because, you could just blanket it and say anyone 18 or younger doing anything major life, whatever, has to have the parents involved.
Right.
It's kind of like saying 10% tax for everybody. Just not that I agree with that. Just saying.
Right. Because
that you can have that regulation, but I feel like we tend to look at a problem after it's a problem instead of getting to the root of it, because sex education in this country is pitiful.
Yes.
It's all wrapped in shame and this and that, and if you heard some of the conversations I heard of high school kids, you'd be horrified. You just wouldn't believe that they're that naive and ignorant when it comes to a basic human function. That's where we're getting the pregnancies, the STDs and all that, because I just feel like let's back up to the root of the problems.
Yeah, see, and that's a major difference, okay, between North and South. Okay. In Maine, we had sex ed when we were in the 4th grade.
Right.
Was the beginning of sex ed.
Right.
Okay. And, every year they would repeat it. But, so, in the 4th grade, you're not that old. We were well informed. Okay. But education is different up there. I feel like the North is 20 years ahead of the South.
Right.
In a lot of manners.
Right. And some South, it might be 50. I grew up in Georgia.
Yeah.
But it's, instead of having that spook factor, sex education is not just about sex, which is what the fear factor is. It's also about having a kid recognize when they're being used, know it's or abused, knowing what's okay, what's not okay, knowing if there's a problem with something that needs to be addressed. It's I see it more as a biology than sex.
Right, yeah, and that's where we had it, was in biology class. But they, it totally amazes me to continue to hear stories, and you still hear them today, of someone giving birth who never knew they were pregnant.
I know, right?
That
yes,
totally boggles my mind.
Yep.
So, like you said, I mean, it's all about everything to do with it, but it's also about respect. Okay, it's about responsibility. Now, I don't know if they do that here or not, but in Maine, we had to have baby eggs. So you had an egg, and it was not a hard-boiled egg.
Right.
Okay, it was an egg, and you painted a little face on it, and that egg was your baby. And you carried that egg everywhere. And if you had a class where the egg wasn't allowed, you had to have a babysitter. So you had to arrange for someone else to take care of your egg.
I've never heard of that. I've heard of the dolls that scream and cry.
Yeah, no, we didn't have dolls. We had eggs, because we were talking, a lot of years, right?
Yeah, sure.
But we had eggs. And I'll tell you what, if that egg at the end of your semester was cracked or damaged in any way, you failed. Okay? If it was broken, God forbid, that was murder. So, yeah.
Okay, so we're going to hell in a handbasket because we don't respect our elders, and bodily autonomy is a little mixed up. Anything else?
No, I mean, like I said, I think everybody has their own right to choose, okay, and everything. I just think that sometimes the human brain is wired to react before really thinking through everything. Okay, how is this going to affect me? And especially for young people, okay, how is this going to affect the rest of my life?
Right.
Do I truly understand what this means?
Right.
Maybe
it's not a fair or accurate comparison, but it's the first thing that came to my mind. Right now, the talk is food insecurity. SNAP benefits have been held back or partially given or in doubt. And I've heard people locally here, say things to the effect of, well, they should take it away. These people need to go to work. But most people on SNAP do work. They don't make a living wage. So, but on the other hand, I've had a fella tell me just recently, he said, I had to work all my life, and I've seen people get all these food benefits, and my mama only gets $40 a month. And I thought, that's what they're upset about, that they feel that it's disproportionate. So instead of taking everything away from everybody, why don't we figure the regulation out better? Of course there's abuse. There's abuse in Medicaid, there's abuse in SNAP, but don't starve the entire nation because of it. And if I go back to the religious practices, when did God's love become conditional? You see what I'm saying? So I think what I'm trying to get back to is that any topic we talk about, if it's bodily autonomy, food security, whatever, you're talking about maybe more strict regulations, that somehow we need to figure out a way for people to make better decisions, whether it's based on regulation, education, or whatever. Am I summarizing correctly?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. I mean, because I firmly believe that people need help sometimes. I do. And it really did burn my butt in Maine that when my husband and I were struggling because we had lost our jobs and had mortgages and everything else, that we couldn't get any help. Okay? Because we did find other jobs. We found other jobs right away, but had to go back, lose what we had worked for to go back to minimum wage. Okay? Well, when you got the mortgage on your house, you weren't making minimum wage. Okay? Right. But now you had this huge mortgage to pay and things. Right. And you couldn't get any help. And yet others...
Why? Because you owned property or you had gone back to work?
Because we had gone back to work.
Oh, and you didn't meet that minimal threshold for help. Gotcha.
The minimum threshold for help. And yet others who could have gotten jobs, okay, and could have helped themselves somewhat, didn't, and they wouldn't because they would lose all of their benefits, okay? Instead of saying, hey, you got a job, good for you, you can now afford this much, so instead of giving you $300 a month, we're going to only give you $200 a month.
I thought that's how it worked.
Okay, not in Maine at the time. No.
You kept everything regardless of working?
No, you lost everything.
Lost everything.
You lost all of it.
Oh, so it's kind of like the child care situation. People can't go to work because the job doesn't pay enough for the child. So you're talking, okay, I understand that.
Yeah, so basically you were punished for going out and getting a job and trying to support yourself.
Right.
Okay, to the point where you just couldn't afford it.
Right.
Okay, instead of saying, if you go out and get a job and you're trying to support yourself, you're making an effort, great for you, but we understand you still need some help.
Right. To get through a crunch or get a better paying job.
To get through, right. Because it's going to take you time to build up from that new job. Right. Just because you got a job today doesn't mean that you're going to get benefits, you're going to get, better pay, any of that. You have to work towards that.
But
and that takes time.
Some people may say that, well, you shouldn't have got yourself in this position in the first place. You should have lived within your means and been prepared for that. That's how cold people can be. And judgmental.
Yeah, and judgmental. And you know what? It can happen to everyone.
That's exactly right.
I was in a situation where I worked for a company for 18 years, and we went to go to work one morning, and everything was locked up. Okay? Without warning.
Closed?
Nope. They had sold it during the night. Okay? And during the night, because I was a manager at the time, in the middle of the night, they had people come and change the locks on the doors. And they had guards standing outside. And they were like, oh, you were supposed to get an email that, we're opening at 10 this morning and everybody is going to the cafeteria. Okay, I didn't get one. So when 10 o'clock came, we all got herded into the cafeteria, and then they read off your name and told you were either going upstairs or you were staying in the cafeteria. And it was about half and half. And I remember I was sent upstairs. And it's like, what is going on? And they're like, well, we sold, the company was sold last night. These people now own it. And, the people that are upstairs here are keeping their jobs. The people that, will be given an offer. The people downstairs will be let go. And some people had been there, 30 years. But without warning.
Was this a big corporation?
Not really, no.
Wow.
But this was 2 days before Christmas.
Oh, my God.
Oh, yeah. So when the gentleman upstairs was praising, we're this company and we just took over yours and, we've given you each an offer and da-da-da. And one of the people that I was close to raised his hand and said, what if we don't accept your offer? And I mean, the man literally was just completely taken aback. And he said, well, of course you'll accept the offer. Well, tell you what, we all went home that Monday morning. 4 of us came back, handed in the papers and said,
no, thank you.
No.
Yeah.
Nope. Not going to happen. Don't like your tactics. Don't like what you did.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Yeah.
And left.
Wow.
But things like, nobody knew that was coming. Nobody in any way was prepared for that.
Yeah.
And
that's what the government's supposed to be, is a safety net.
It is. And, when you've got people that own companies, okay, privately held companies and things that, they can do whatever they want. If they want to close the doors tomorrow without warning, they're going to close the doors tomorrow without warning.
Right.
And that leaves their workers unprepared. And it's very easy to say, oh, you should have saved this or you should have saved that. Well, you know what? A lot of things have gotten so expensive that they can't save.
Right. And furthermore, I walk in my footsteps, not you.
Yeah.
And that's one thing, too, that aggravates me when people talk about SNAP benefits. Is like, well, they're buying soda. Like, why do you care somebody's buying soda when you got billionaires getting their next yacht off the backs of the workers. You see what I'm saying? Like, why don't we be a little more nosy and micromanaging of the billionaires versus somebody buying soda with a damn SNAP card, you know? It's just, I don't know. I just think it's unkind and judgmental, and you just don't know. And why can't they have one little luxury, you know? But there is abuse. I do agree I agree with you there. Yeah, there's definitely abuse.
There is some.
On the topics you're talking about. I mean, we can even put that with gun control. You're obviously a gun advocate, but we need regulations on it. You don't want your kids getting access to it. You don't want people getting, why do they need AK-47s or whatever out in public?
Yeah, no.
Common sense.
It is common sense, and we don't seem to have any in this country.
And that's where we're going to hell in a handbasket, and people won't have the conversations to bring it back to common sense and find those commonalities, I think.
I've always said, people will say, oh, well, I thought I saw this light in the sky and I think it was a UFO. And it's like, you know what? Let me tell you what.
Yeah.
It would be extremely arrogant of the human race to think that we are the only ones in the universe. Mm. Okay, I'm sorry. Mm. But, okay, the intelligent life form that may be out there is probably intelligent enough not to bother. They've probably gone by and said, you know what? There's no intelligent life form down there. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Oh, we're not stopping here. Yeah. Because sometimes some of the things that are done are just, it's like...
It's mind-boggling. Mind-boggling.
It is. Yeah. It truly is.
Especially to our home, our planet where we live. You know?
Yeah. And, we're busy going off to the moon or going off to Mars or whatever. We need to find another planet. No, we need to take care of the planet we have.
Right. Yeah.
How about that?
If you can terraform Mars, by God, you can terraform here, you know?
It's just, it's mind-boggling, and I don't know. It's frightening.
It is.
It's frightening.
I want to ask you one final question now. How do you find your peace in life? And when I say peace, I mean P-E-A-C-E.
I find it living in the country part. Okay. Vernon Hill isn't that far from here. Mm. Okay. But there's a lot of forest and farmland. And I have neighbors, don't get me wrong, but I'm in the quiet. Mm. And I find my peace being able to go out back in my backyard and in my patio and things, and sitting there in my swing, relaxing, looking at the stars, being able to see the stars.
Enjoying nature.
Mm. Watching the deer come out. They'll walk right by you. We have cows and we have a couple pigs and things, so, I listen to them, and we have 3 dogs and play with them outside and everything. But outdoors in nature is my peace.
Excellent. All right. Well, I appreciate your time. I want to remind everybody, she's got a book out called say it for me, because I'm always scared I'm going to pronounce that word wrong.
The Curse of Avra Island.
Avra. So just the H is silent.
The H is silent. Yep.
Okay. The Curse of Avra Island. And she's got coming out possibly as soon as tomorrow.
The Secrets of Avra Manor.
The Secrets of Avra Manor. And she will be at the Halifax Farm. I always want to say flea market. The Halifax Farmers Market. But I'm going to post her Facebook page so that you can check and make sure what weekend she might or might not be there. Get a copy of her book. She'll sign it for you. It's pretty cool. And check out all the other stuff she sells. Again, thank you for your time. This is a great chat.
Well, thank you for having me. I enjoyed it.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
That's it. That was good. Very, very, very good. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome, hon. Thank you.
Interesting conversations. I love it. Yeah, you're really interesting too, because